Welcome, everyone. I'm Dan McDermott. This is Google Plus Week. We're sticking with the name for now. Hello, Alan. How are you?
Peachy keen, Dan. How about you?
Doing well. Cadeas is traveling still, and Pam is under the weather. So she would be especially grouchy were she to pop in. So anyway, so I wanted to ask you before we get into the tech stuff. Did you see the debate? It was the most watched primary debate in history, I think.
No,
With
why would I watch it?
to see it's the Apprentice for real.
Why would I watch it?
Really, you didn't see it? I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it was
Really?
just awesome. Everything I expected. Rand Paul versus Donald, Rand Paul versus Chris Christie, Donald versus Megyn Kelly. Um, anyway, if you guys had any thoughts on it, let us know because I was really impressed. I thought the moderators did well. Carly Fiorina did well in the first debate, and the reason there was no audience in the first debate. The reason for that was that they didn't have an audience. It wasn't that nobody wanted to go because they didn't want to have to. It was the same stadium, so they didn't want to have to try to get one audience out, another one in. So they just dimmed the lights there. But it sounded like sort of cavernous. But it was very interesting, and they had 26.5 million viewers at peak, which is more than we get, I think. So anyway, all right. So our first actual topic is you may soon be able to get the perfect Gmail address. Isn't this basically selling you a custom domain?
Who knows what it is? Because it hasn't finally been announced. But in some ways, it does sound like it's going to sell you a custom Gmail domain, or it might just be that they're opening up a bunch of new domains to and launching Gmail on it themselves. So this might be there are any number of possible solutions here. What I think this is finally admitting is, they're stepping up and saying, hey, that land rush to grab email addresses and account names, that might have been a bad idea. Um, and this is one way they're trying to kludge around the problem.
Now, I've talked to Craig at length about this when he's not telling me that the government is too big. He tells me about how .coms really do matter, like the .net, the .org, the anything else sucks compared to the .com. Do you think that that's the case? Do you think that that will remain to be the case for some period?
I honestly don't know, to be honest. I mean, what I've been able to see is that a lot of people are going to other domain names, and now that we've got more and more TLDs that are just the stupidest things on the planet.
TLDs being
Top level domains. .com is a TLD, top level domain. We're now seeing top level domains of all sorts. Some of them incredibly stupid, like .ninja.
man, I could totally see Michael Banks at .ninja.
Now that we're seeing more and more of these, I think we might have to finally recognize the fact that having a .com is not the be all and end all. That said, I still go for a .com.
Yeah, if you can get it. And you've got a great one, prisoner.com. All right, so we'll see. And I guess there'll be a charge. The rumor is like $2 a month or something.
Who knows?
So it could be a win if
I will note, however, that Google is one of the ones that was leading the charge for for newer TLDs, and some of those TLDs include .android. So it might be interesting if they start giving away addresses like Dan at Android. Something interesting to think about.
would it have to be something dot?
No, that's the whole point.
Oh, just at
Maybe it would
Android.
be Dan at mail.android.
Well, you can't have like Dan at com. It has to be gmail.com or something.com. So it wouldn't
That's
have to be
because
something dot
that's
Android.
because those are the rules behind the .com TLD.
But others aren't as.
Others don't necessarily need that, especially not when Google is the one that owns the TLD.
Are there any examples you can think of? So
Of what?
theoretically, I could just type Android in the computer and it would take me to a website that was Android.
Yeah. That's why they got it.
That's freaking me out. I don't know if that would be I think people would still be typing in Android.com, and then there'd be a race to get everyone's cool thing at Android.com or whatever the corresponding, because people would accidentally type in. I swear to God, someone today, I was on the phone with someone today, and she asked me for a website address. I gave it to her, and she asked me, "That's all small letters?"
Very good.
So we're still not there yet. Okay. All right, next up, Google announces a new update policy for Nexus devices, including monthly security patches for 3 years and major over-the-air updates for 2 years from release. So I guess my 2012, that was the initial year, right, for the Nexus 7 that we both got.
Yes.
We're screwed.
Yeah, well.
It's so freaking slow. It's almost unusable.
Here's the point, though. This is something they should have done a long time ago, and it's still insufficient. Because just because Google is going to be supporting it doesn't mean that the manufacturers will be supporting it. It doesn't mean that the carriers will be supporting it. There's still an incredible fucking mess.
So only if you have like an actual something you bought from Google.
Not even that. Only a Nexus device is what they're guaranteeing.
And the
it
Nexus,
does mean that they're going to.
Were any of those sold with carrier plans?
What?
Were there Nexus devices that were sold with a carrier plan where the carrier pushes something out?
Yeah.
So those wouldn't.
No.
Only like our Nexus 7. Like if you went to Walmart and bought a Nexus 7 tablet that has no carrier plan, it's just pure from Google. That would This would apply to that.
Right.
And there's no way in hell Sprint, Verizon, AT&T are going to every month have an update. No freaking way.
In theory, they could. I mean, AT&T, I believe, is pushing out security updates for the last security vulnerability now, which is, impressive for AT&T. But it's a serious problem. And Google needs to take command of this, or they're going to, rapidly lose market share.
Do other things like Chrome, you don't download the new version of Chrome. I don't get a thing like, update to the new version. It just does it.
It just happens. It's what they refer to as evergreen.
I'm not aware of it even happening, except like now my Chrome doesn't crash every day like it did for a month. So that's good there. I don't know. Okay, so I guess this is good.
Well, it's better, considering before it was horrendous and now it's just bad. It's an improvement.
Okay. A related question, unrelated but related as far as updates. On my laptop, I have a little thing to update to Windows 10. Without getting into an hour, which you probably could, should I or should I wait?
Sure, why not?
Because it's not my main machine. The only thing I use it for is Hangouts with you guys.
Sure, why not? What's the worst that can happen?
I could die 1,000 deaths slowly. Something could go wrong on the internet.
I don't see the problem with any of that so far.
Okay. If any of you guys watching, if our viewer wishes to opine, no, we're up to 4. We'll be in the double digits. Always start slow. So if anyone has an opinion now or throughout the week, let me know. All right. So next is Galaxy Note 5 photos confirm the death of the removable battery in the micro SD slot. So I've got a Galaxy Note 2, and I have an iPhone 6, and one has a removable battery and an SD. The iPhone has neither, but the iPhone charges so crazily fast, I'm fine with it not having it. And I got the 128 gig version, so I'm not really worried about the SD card. What are your thoughts? What's the reason you wouldn't have those two things, first of all?
I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed. Just as every other manufacturer is looking to add SD cards and is considering going back to removable batteries, Samsung finally catches up to 3 years ago. Congratulations to Samsung.
What is the advantage? Um,
The advantage of basically getting rid of both of those means that you can make it slightly smaller or have a larger battery in the same form factor.
are
So, for
costs
example,
are costs
no
different?
cost. I mean, cost is slightly cheaper, but honestly, it's not a huge factor. It basically boils down to what size battery you can put in and how small you can make it.
Is there anything like on the SD card? Is there anything along the lines of if it's built in, it might be faster than something, or it's they know exactly what kinds in there. Maybe there are differences between types, and they'll get quirky things they can't
There's
answer in your
there's
tech
some of
support
that, but
question.
there's some of that, but honestly, that's not a huge reason.
Okay. All right. So, do you suspect Apple will go to either an SD removable or removable battery? I mean, an SD
No,
slot,
no,
and because they're super into like smaller, smaller, lighter, lighter, thinner, thinner.
yeah,
Okay.
they're all about the design.
Okay. This is where we speak in a British accent and talk about how beautiful it is. Um, all right, how secure is an email service? So I saw this. The actual story I linked to is that apparently the FBI is looking into the security of the server that was in then Secretary Hillary Clinton's thing. And what's interesting is this was the campaign server from the '08 campaign when she ran, or '07 when she ran for '08 when she ran for president. Then she converted it to ClintonEmail.com to be, and she used it as Secretary of State. She's been under criticism, et cetera. But the genesis of this is they had someone on the campaign staff set it up, and then they had they contracted with the company to run it. I think it crashed at some point, and so they contracted with like professionals who do this all the time. They were not like national security type people, just a competent IT outfit. And so we're not. I don't want to talk about the politics of it. If you like or hate Hillary, that's your business. But just from the perspective, someone said, because she deleted 50,000 emails or something, and someone said, well, I bet we could get them with a FOIA request to Russia or China, which was a funny line. But what are the odds? How secure is an email server? From the technical side, Alan, if I set up an email server here, if I got a static IP to do that from Comcast and wanted to just have my own thing and my backup so I'm secure, and they argued that it was in a secure facility because it was in their living room or whatever, which was protected by the U.S. Secret Service. But the kind of security that might play to the general public, but you don't need to gain physical access to a box to hack it. That's not really the kind of security we'd be concerned about. So what is the deal? How secure? How likely is it that someone high profile like that would have been hacked?
15 years ago, I would have said if you had an email server in your house, it was hacked. Email servers used to be one of the most security vulnerable systems that were out there. These days, less so. But also these days, you've got a lot more attack surfaces, places. So even if I was going after an email server, I wouldn't necessarily go after the email portion of it. I'd go after the server portion of it. I don't know any information about the server itself, so I obviously can't comment. But just having a machine that is publicly accessible from the internet is a risk.
Um, would you be surprised if China or Russia had not gained access? In other words, like the de
I
facto
can't
is
comment on.
okay. That's his go-to, and we got the cat in there
No,
for ratings.
that's that I spent a number of years doing computer security for the military.
Okay. You said 15 years ago it would almost be a sure thing you'd be hacked, but today not so much. Where does '09 fit? 6 years ago,
I don't know.
somewhere in between those two
Somewhere in
things.
between.
Oh, open hole, fill hole. Um, okay, so next up is this isn't a big deal, but it's neat. Um, the FCC might finally start judging broadband on more than just speed, and we've seen an aggressive chairman of the FCC, and I guess they're going to just sort of look at reliability and that sort of thing, and they're just going to probably note that, or they're not going to punish someone if they don't meet certain criteria. But I remember when Tom Wheeler first got the gig, and there was a lot of criticism. Alan, do you remember that he was going to be in the tank for the cable industry because he was a former lobbyist for them, and he, it turns out, is not in the tank for the cable industry. Any thoughts on this at all?
I think quite a few people are surprised at just how much he's flogging the cable industry. I think they need to pay their bills on time.
What do you mean?
Never mind. It was a bad joke. Keep going. We've
Okay.
got a couple of comments
Okay, let's see.
from Joshua. How long before Jon Stewart shows up on Netflix?
That's a good question. We will get to that topic in a moment.
And from Cy, security on Android? What about stage fright? Well, that's what this whole fiasco. I won't say that's what this whole fiasco or this whole musical chairs number is all about now, because it's not. It's clearly been in the works for a while. But that's what kind of pushed it to the forefront, is that here they've got this bug that goes back quite a few versions now. And, there's nothing being done about it, really. And it's not that this hadn't happened before, but, now this is high profile enough that they need to do something, and they should have done it before.
Kevin
I call
Bryan,
this Google's Microsoft moment, or
quick
one
shout
of them.
out. Kevin Bryan's watching. He doesn't want to come on because he has terrible lighting. Kevin, you're welcome to mute your camera and come on and just talk to us, unless you're in a noisy bar, which is possible. There's a few in Atlanta. Anyway. Okay. All right, the Facebook video fiasco. So there was this guy. I just had that open and now I don't. What's the guy's name, Alan? He posted this thing, the lies, cheat, and deceit of Facebook video about how the view counts are fake. People, one thing I see myself is that people will download your video and upload it to get the views. I guess it's just a popularity contest because there's no monetization, is there? I don't think.
Well, YouTube encourages this, apparently. That if you post Facebook encourages this, apparently. That if you post a video to Facebook from YouTube, it says, hey, why don't you just, re-upload it? And people don't realize that, what that means. And that's part of the argument here, is that the original poster is saying that, hey, Facebook is encouraging people to rip off content. And he was pissed off about it because it was his content that was being ripped off.
How are they encouraging it, you say?
Apparently, if you post a link to Facebook from YouTube, if you post a YouTube video on Facebook, it says, hey, do you want to upload this video to Facebook?
Oh, wow. That's
And
blatantly
people are saying,
illegal.
yeah, sure, whatever.
Okay, that's not good.
So that's kind of what kicked it off. And then he said, Facebook is quoting these stats that they've got more views on videos than YouTube does. And that might be true, but the two of them are counting them on completely different ways. So Facebook counts a view as 3 seconds of video, while YouTube counts a view as about 30 seconds of video.
Does a view, okay, 3 seconds defined as it's in your stream auto playing as you're scrolling down for 3 seconds, or you actually engage with it?
No, that means it auto plays as it goes through your window, and 3 seconds in, it counts as a view, even if you were reading the story above it.
I got to tell you, that is genius, the way that they do it. It's not really intrusive. I don't think it happens on mobile, right? Yeah, it doesn't happen on mobile, I don't think, because
I don't
there's
know.
so much
I never
concern
watched.
about
I
data
never looked at it.
capped. But I think on that really has caused me to engage or restart a video that I might not have otherwise. Um, so I don't know. It's but I think that the way that Facebook's doing it right, they've got. I heard someone say that describing Netflix and Amazon. They said that the catalog and the original content, Amazon is kind of like Netflix 5 years ago, and I think Facebook in some ways is doing a better job than YouTube. But as far as the copyright, having not faced a $1 billion lawsuit from what was it, Viacom, that YouTube is still playing fast and loose and kind of trying to get content however they can. YouTube is probably overly crazy with their copyright strikes and stuff to the point where I don't even monetize anything anymore. Not that I made any money, but our theory was that if it was monetized, it might get stuck somewhere. It might be featured more because they could make money from it. But I don't have any evidence, having tried it both ways, that that's the case. Anything else on this? Because Facebook came back and said, "Oh, au contraire, we are concerned about copyright and blah
Yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah,"
yeah. They paid lip service to all of their replies, to all of his concerns.
with the non-denial denial.
Well, with some placating words that didn't really say much.
We hear what you're saying, and we work every day to provide a great user experience and be mindful of all blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
Okay. Next is Keurig, one of our favorite companies. Keurig, creator of the
right.
Keurig
Because they couldn't
2.0.
screw up their own product more unless they tried, which they just did.
They literally killed the goose that lays the golden egg. So the backstory. This is about a soda Keurig. The backstory is Keurig it's the most popular coffee pot, and you've got these little pods. You put it in there, and it's like it used to be 50 cents a piece if you got them at Costco, the big giant box, and then now it's like 65 cents a piece or something. But you get your little coffee cup, and it's very convenient. You just stick it in there, and you put the water in, and it lasts for a few days, and it's warm, and you can very quickly make a cup of coffee. It's great. So you don't have to make a whole pot. It's no mess. And then blah, blah, blah. So then they came out with the 2.0, which had referred to as DRM, Digital Rights Management, where you couldn't use a non-Keurig 2.0 pot in there. And they said it so that they could tell what kind of thing was in it, and they could have different size and different types, which is bullshit. It was about preventing third-party pods from using their machines because their patent ran out. So they didn't have to pay a license fee anymore, and so they wanted to shut that down. Consumers were livid, and there were hacking videos, etc. So now Keurig has come out with a new product. It is a soda machine, and it's expensive. I think it's $300, and it's about $1 to make a soda, which is so it's so much better than opening a 25-cent soda in your fridge. Alan, this is just every kind of fail, I think.
This is incredibly fail. This has got to be one of the stupider things that I've seen. Considering that it's not even the first product in the market to do this sort of thing. SodaStream's been out there. It does it relatively cheaply, and it's fairly successful. This is coming in at something like 3 to 4 times the price of a SodaStream, plus the markup that they're going to have on each product. They've got Coca-Cola in their corner, which is going to, give them some name, but that's about all they've got going for it. One of the things that I find surprising this article doesn't point out is, at least it used to be, that products like that Coca-Cola used to be the number 2 breakfast drink after coffee.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Now, that was at a time when orange juice was expensive and we didn't have energy drinks. Now we have energy drinks, and I would be willing to bet that energy drinks as a class are now the second most popular breakfast beverage after coffee. But Coke is probably still up there. That said, I think this is stupid. I can't imagine why people would want a machine that makes single serving of soda.
I could see the advantage. Uh, if you don't have to haul in, liquid is 8 pounds a gallon. So if you don't want to bring in cases of Coke, if your kids drink it a lot, or if you drink, if you're, one of the dwindling members of the population that still drinks a lot of sugary drinks, then you'd save on that. I think that's the allure of SodaStream, right? You don't have to haul in cases of Coke. If you're on a third floor apartment and you are not in good shape and you don't have an elevator, then I could see a SodaStream or this being very, but if you could afford this and to pay $1 a Coke, I would imagine you wouldn't be on the third floor of an apartment building with no elevator. I don't know. Maybe some people will buy it.
It's pretty amazing to me. By the way, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. You could up your
Okay.
volume a little bit if possible, but it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to me that they're trying to cut in on a field where it's kind of dwindling. This is not exactly a growth field. So why would you want to jump from your previous debacle into something a little less obscure? Like that's going to help you. You
Maybe
know?
it could dispense MSG treats or something,
Yeah, exactly.
GMO juice. The new Keurig, instead of 2.0, the new Keurig GMO. Although I'm for GMOs, but that's funny. Yeah, I hear you, Kevin. Kevin Bryan are you still in Atlanta? Because you graduated, right?
Yeah, I am not in Atlanta right. I'm in Cincinnati.
You're not still on somebody's couch in Atlanta?
No, no, I'm in a different state entirely. There'll be more on that later, but yeah, I'm
You're
not
in
there right
Cincinnati,
now.
Ohio?
Yes, I am.
Were you at the debate in
No,
Cleveland?
no, I was not. No.
Did
Um,
I'm watching my tweets. Donald Trump is on with Don Lemon on CNN. I love Don Lemon. He's really funny, and he Trump's just going at it. She's
well,
not very trash and Megan. Did you see the debate? Because Alan he hates talking about politics. Um,
I well let's go ahead and derail this for a minute though. While we talk about these.
Sure, let's.
it was our first topic. Alan added it.
Oh no, we've chased Alan away completely.
Did you watch
I
it?
was just
Did you have any
um,
thoughts?
I watched it a little bit. I'm only going to talk about it for like 2 minutes, and then I'm not going to derail the debate
Okay.
anymore. Okay, yeah, I did watch
You
it.
expect me to believe that?
I won't. I only have a couple sentences to say about it. People are continuing to underestimate the appeal of Donald Trump, and especially the media. The media love him, but they also like to marginalize him, and he's going to have a much bigger impact on these elections than probably anyone thinks.
He's kind of the guy I'd vote for, but I'd be afraid to put his sticker on my car. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And
It
I would
does.
only put it on there if it was a removable sticker. So when he implodes, I can I don't know what you're talking about. I was never for Perot. You know what I mean?
You would vote for him?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. He'd be either the best
You would
president
vote
we
for a
ever
man who
had or
can't
he'd be
manage his
impeached.
company.
Huh?
You would vote for a man who can't even manage his own companies.
Well, he's had hundreds of businesses. 4 went bankrupt, and he's never been bankrupt. And you think the USA, he's not 17 trillion in debt. He's not a crook. He can't be bought. He's worth billions of dollars. All the other guys, you're going to throw that out
Did
there
you
and
just
then
honestly say he's not a crook?
I don't think he's a crook. I think he's less crooked than any of the others.
Well, you also have to compare him to who else is on the podiums. I mean, when they were talking about the healthcare debate, he was the only one out of anyone on the stage who was offering a coherent platform, which is that you could just open healthcare plans up nationwide instead of having it just state by state, and that would give people choices and in a way that's not available right now, and would get more people covered.
Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong. I think there are parts of, I don't know if it was Arkansas, Louisiana, and some other states where there's literally one healthcare provider. That's it.
Yeah, even if it wasn't just one, there's very little choice, especially in some of the smaller states. So if you were able to open it up nationwide, that would be more appealing to Republicans, and it would get more people covered, which I'm sure Democrats would like. So all the other plans that I heard from other people on the Republican platform, they didn't even make as much sense as that. I'm not saying I agree with all those plans, but I am saying that his plan did make more sense than any of the others. And also, everyone's trying to ride his coattails a little bit, and so they're not really defining themselves as well as they could.
Kevin, did I just hear you correctly on something? And by the way, we're now at 3 minutes.
No.
Did I just hear you correctly to say that you think that Republicans would be in favor of a centralized, federally controlled healthcare, but private healthcare system?
Donald Trump was. He was for single payer. Absolutely, he was.
That's not what I said. Republicans.
Oh,
no,
I see what you did there.
No, what I'm saying is that Trump was offering the idea of opening up the healthcare plans that are available just in one state or two states, and they're limited state by state, and allowing anyone in the nation to sign up for that particular plan. That's what I'm saying.
You're saying that you think Republicans, broadly speaking, would be in favor of something that takes away states' rights?
I don't know if they'd be in favor of it or not, but I would say that it's a more coherent plan. That's really what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that is what Trump's plan essentially was, and I'm saying it was a better plan than what else was on offer. That's what I'm saying. Now, whether Republicans would go for that plan or not definitely remains to be seen. But as someone who's just watching it, it was a better plan than anything else I saw.
He's a pragmatist, Alan. It doesn't matter how many people voted for Obama because he was going to get us out of Afghanistan and Iraq and close Guantanamo Bay. Hello? I mean, he's actually the most presidential. He doesn't have of all the candidates in one way, and not presidential in other ways, but in one way that he does not have a briefing book that he's going to, when the president is confronted with, oh shit, they just blew up the World Trade Center, there's no briefing book for that. He doesn't have to say, oh, I said, in chapter 7, I said I was going to do this. He has to look at where the cards have fallen and react. And do you trust him that he's going to do what's pragmatic and makes sense? Or do you think that he's going to do because someone donated to him? Because we've seen he's willing to toss somebody overboard at the drop of a hat. Look at Macy's. And I think he's a businessman. He's a pragmatist. He doesn't give a shit who he pisses off. And I think it's so wildly different.
Does. He even said so. He said that's why he buys politicians.
He buys. He's not for sale. He's the purchaser. He's admitted as much. He says, I give to everyone here except for like 2 of you.
Yeah, and also we don't have to take all of these policy plans that seriously. It's very
We shouldn't take any of them seriously.
Right. Well,
Nixon's secret plan to
That's
end the
point.
war.
Nobody takes him seriously.
No. People are actually. I'm saying people are taking him seriously. Not so much in the media, but more regular people are taking him seriously than you might think. But even that doesn't really matter in the long term anyway, because we're so far away from actual voting that it doesn't really matter. We're just watching the debate and seeing where people stand, and basically all that's going on is Trump is talking, and people are all the other candidates are trying to keep up. That's all that's going on.
Just look, here's a post. I just saw this on Drudge. This is the Washington Post lead tomorrow. This came out at 8:50 tonight online. As campaign heats up, Republican candidates are rushing to the right. And he said in there, and he was poo-pooed on, I don't know, Fox or CNN. Both of them are kind of poo-pooing him. And he said during the debate, none of you all would be talking about immigration but for me. And then they said, well, of course they would. No, they wouldn't. They weren't, because they were all Romneyed up because of the self-deportation thing. And then everyone was afraid, like, oh, we can't upset whatever. And he's just like, build a wall, get all the illegals legal, and make it efficient for people who want to come in here. It's crazy when someone who's completely qualified to fill some engineering gig and they can't find some local person to do it, and they want to hire somebody out of Germany or wherever, that they have to go through all this crazy paperwork and they can't get in. It takes years when someone can just waltz over here for a dishwashing job and to crash on somebody's couch along with 16 other people in the same townhouse. That's insane. We're not getting the best and the brightest. That's what Trump did not eloquently say, but I think that's what he meant. I think as I was born in Japan, I lived overseas. My one sister was born in Ethiopia. I'm not. We're this. We descended from Irish immigrants. We came over when the potatoes rotted. I think that we should have. We both know a Googler who would probably love to be in Mountain View, and there's visa issues. It's a shame that he's not from South or Central America. He could be here right now, no problem.
Anyway, I think we've. Oh no! I think
How
we've
come you didn't want
derailed
to talk
it
about
enough
this
at
at the beginning
point.
of the show? But once a cool guy comes, all of a sudden Alan wants to talk.
No, because you didn't say anything nearly as stupid as he's been saying. Well, no, let me take that back. Kevin's actually been saying reasonable things.
Yeah.
You've been saying stupid things.
I don't think it's stupid.
The last statement you just made was utterly stupid and totally misses A, what Trump's been saying, B, what everyone else has been saying about immigration.
I stand by what I said. I'll defend it if you want to pick it apart. I agree that he could be more specific on some things. I think someone described his foreign policy as, I know a guy in China, and that's not really too thought out. But I don't know. I just think it's
Foreign
great.
policy is an understatement. He doesn't understand anything outside of Manhattan.
He owns businesses around the world.
No, he doesn't. He has his name on businesses around the world.
He's getting paid.
There's a slight difference.
What's the difference? I mean, you don't think Dollywood knows anything about a theme park? Just because, it's probably a licensing deal?
I think Dolly Parton knows more about a theme park than Donald Trump knows about the casino industry.
Jimmy Dean actually knows about raising hogs. Anyway.
This is great.
I just think, Alan, we should make America great again.
You saw that hat, obviously.
Oh my God. And the plane with the 24 karat gold fixtures is just too much. I'm as long as he's in, I think it's fantastic. Okay. So there, we did our 120 seconds. All right, The Daily Show. There's two links I linked to here. One is that the set is going to the Newseum, which is in D.C., and that's great. So you'll be able to visit the Newseum, which is a museum about news. That's the name. And they've donated it. So you'll be able to, I don't know if it's just the desk or the whole deal, It'll be really interesting to see how big it really is and stuff, because typically when I've been on TV sets, they're much smaller than they look on television. People that seem to be feet apart are actually like elbow to elbow on a little tiny 4-foot thing, 4 guys. But it'll be interesting to see how that works. And there's this other link. It's interesting about The Daily Show, 17 things you might not know about The Daily Show, and it talks about how he wanted to quit at first because Greg Kilborn's team was very different from what he wanted. It took him about 2.5 years to get going. Just in general, what do you guys? I think he was fantastic. His audience was only about 1.2 million as far as measured Nielsen. I don't know, but the clips you'd see everywhere on social media.
Final show was 3.8 million.
Yeah, so that was compared to 1/10 of what the debate was, or about
but
1/8.
beat out the final shows of Johnny Carson, just about everybody from the Tonight Show.
Yeah, but I mean, what's interesting, like a Bill O'Reilly show does 3 or 4 times what the Daily Show would do. A typical O'Reilly show, a typical Megyn Kelly show would do 3 times. A typical CNN show would do about the same. An MSNBC show would do a good one would do a half to even. So it wasn't like Cronkite every night everyone watched, but it really had an impact. And those numbers are how many, according to Nielsen, are watching on Comedy Central television, right? That doesn't include the YouTube clips and all this other stuff. And I don't know how you'd measure all that. But I just loved him, and he was so funny, and he did some really good stuff, like about the way veterans are treated, about the thing with Kramer when he went on CNN and just trashed Crossfire, which had just evolved. It used to be really good. I love Michael Kinsley duking it out with Pat Buchanan, and the guy who, I think it was 8 is Enough, wrote that book. He was on there as the liberal against Buchanan, and then it just evolved into this monstrosity that was just almost unwatchable. with just hacks repeating silly talking points that were an insult. It'd be insulting to Sarah Palin, for Christ's sakes. But then he went in and called him out. And then the president of CNN said, you know what, I agree with Jon Stewart. I'm canceling the show. He literally said that. Not, I mean, in different words, but he said, you know, I agree with what Jon Stewart said. He had a big impact, and it's a huge team. If you watch the last show, you'll realize it's not Jon writing some stuff and then delivering it at night with a couple correspondents. It's like 50 people. And he does a walkthrough of all the different people involved in making that show, the writers and all these different things. And it was a huge operation that has, you know, him at the front. But, you know, Dukakis said the fish rots from the head first, and the opposite's true. You know, the head of the organization dictates the mood and the quality of work and selects the team. And, you know, so kudos to him. And he's still young. He's still got a lot left in him. What are your guys' thoughts? I'll miss the show. I mean, I'll miss him, and I wish all the best to the new guy, Trevor, and I hope he'll be great. It'll be different, but he gave us 16 great years. Kevin?
Yeah, a couple of thoughts. First, I'm probably one of the few people who knew about Trevor Noah before he came on the show. He's a very, very funny stand-up comedian out of South Africa. I've seen a couple of his specials. He's very good. I'm hoping that he will be able to grow into this role, because as of now, in his comedy, he wasn't political. And right now, this show is the most political spin of the show it's ever been. And so I'm hoping that he'll grow into it. I'm not sure how that's going to go.
Has he been on the show? When he was on the show, was he political? Because like the other two guys who got big, well, several, I mean, Steve Carell isn't really political, I don't think. I don't know if he was on the show. Larry Wilmore is very political. He was the senior black correspondent and just talked. I mean, he was wonderful. And then he got the show. And then, of course, Colbert was absolutely political. He was a parody of O'Reilly and others.
As far as I know, I don't know that he was that political on the show.
Wasn't he only on a couple times?
He was barely on the show before he became the host. He only started like December 2014. That's when he started even contributing. And before that, he wasn't doing political comedy. He was just doing regular stand-up. So it's going to be interesting.
Kevin, you got to remember, though, that before The Daily Show, Jon Stewart didn't do political comedy either.
Yeah, but he was building he had time to grow. And also he was the host.
He was the exact no. When he started The Daily Show, he wasn't a host. He wasn't anything. He was exactly what Trevor is now.
Well, wait a minute. He took when Stewart came on the show, I thought he was the host from the beginning. Wasn't he the host?
No, Craig Kilborn was the original host of The Daily Show.
No. I know that, but when he came on the show, when Jon Stewart came on the show, he didn't come on as a correspondent first.
Yeah, but I mean,
that's all I mean.
Only a correspondent, what, twice?
Yeah, I mean, Trevor basically that barely even counts. He's basically just taken over the show. So, but the show at the time didn't have the profile. And by the way, I did watch The Daily Show with Craig Kilborn, and I was really bummed out when Jon Stewart came on, because I was such a big fan of the original nonsensical humor that the show provided. And so I was really annoyed when he started turning it to politics. It turned into a really great show after that, but I was really mad about that. I was one of the ones who didn't like him initially.
That's interesting. What was it? How would you describe? Was it a daily news? I mean, it's called The Daily Show. Was it like topical news stuff, but just not political? Was it more like a Jay Leno stand-up routine?
It was not like a Jay Leno stand-up routine. It was lots of very weird things put together. For example, Craig was known for 5 questions, where he would come up basically with any kind of 5 questions that would come up in his head. They would present kind of like a Ripley's Believe It or Not kind of things. Not exactly like that, but very weird, off the wall things. I would think more, if you know anything about the comedians Tim and Eric, they had a show called Tom Goes to the Mayor, and some other shows after that. And they also had a movie, Tim and Eric's $1 Billion Movie. They've done some other things. They did. so this people might know the Old Spice commercials. They with Terry Crews, and Tim and Eric directed a couple of those. But it was
is that the big buff black dude?
Yes, the one who screams a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah, they
He could
directed some of
probably
those
take me. He
commercials.
could probably take me.
But that was the kind of humor that was on the first Daily Show. And then John came on and he wanted to change the show. And it was a hard transition, but he had time to grow that show into what it is now. Now it's so high profile that it's going to be interesting to see how Trevor can meet up to those expectations. Because even then, it leads into another issue that I'm sorry, let me not cut you off. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to cut you off, actually. Get your math straight.
Yeah.
But no, is it more like, would you say, not to disparage anybody, is it like Conan sounds more like the slapstick type stuff you're referring to? And then he came in, Stewart came in, and he's frankly just so damn smart that he didn't want to do that kind of stuff. It's almost, he's smart in the like a Dave Chappelle, really intelligent guy. And so his staff was like Conan type level slapstick. Not that that's bad. It's just different. It's very different. But like a Colbert who went to William and Mary, which is like just outside the Ivy League as far as quality. And maybe it wasn't up to his level.
He didn't want to do that type of show for sure, but it was more, there was almost no overlap between the audience that John wanted and the audience that Craig wanted. That's all. It was just a completely different show. It was very offbeat. It was more like a late show, kind of like that.
What was Jon Stewart like at first? Was it like he was trying to do Kilborn's jokes at first and it didn't work and that's why he didn't like him, or was there an immediate change?
He was immediately trying to make a change himself. You could see that he wanted to go in a different direction, but he couldn't transition the entire show immediately because it was so far away from what he wanted. So he immediately dumped things like, he wanted to move away very quickly from the 5 questions and Your Moment of Zen, where you would find Your Moment of Zen was a weird video clip that Kilborn would put up at the end of the show. There was a segment where he would just start dancing. He would just look in 3 different cameras and say, sometimes I just want to dance, dance, dance. And look, every time he would say dance, he would look into a different camera, and then he would just get up and start dancing, and disco music would come on, and then he would move on with the rest of the show. It was that kind of show, just kind of, it felt kind of like if you left someone around with cameras and it was like after midnight.
And everyone was stoned.
Yes.
It would really be funny.
Yeah, it was that kind of show. And so it was just, he didn't want to do anything like that. He wanted to do more pointed comedy. He wanted to do more political comedy. He wanted all of that. Anyway. That's what he was aiming for. He did it, but he did it over a long period of time. It was a long transition. In terms of the show lately, I wanted to talk about that museum part because I was mad when I heard about that too, because I don't want to see him in the museum. When I go to that museum, I'm looking for actual news. I'm not looking for organizations who are trying to chase the fame. And that's what they're doing by putting in the Daily Show. People can say all they want that he covered important news stories and he was political and everything else. But at the end of the day, it really was a comedy show. It was a comedy show that got serious sometimes, but at the end of the day, it really was a comedy show. That was the first goal.
I point out that he would be the first to point out that it was a comedy show.
Absolutely. So why put him in the museum? That's my question.
Well,
that's a problem that I have with the people who run the museum. And I know why, because I've already seen what kind of staff they have over there, and they've already had to cut a bunch of staff, and they know that if they put in something like the Daily Show, they'll get more people in and they'll get more viewers. And instead of making news more interesting, they want to just grab something that's famous at the time and then maybe get their visitors up that way instead of being more compelling with news. And it's hard. I actually like following the news, but I like it when news is actual news and not clickbait. And the Daily Show is not clickbait, but it's heading there because we know that that's not real news, but they're trying to get viewers up for their place, and so they're sticking something in that they are not really about in order to get their views up. They're kind of selling out on the news front.
I'd say it's real satire about serious issues.
Absolutely, it's satire,
And
but
it can be news. When he interviews President Obama, Jay Carney said that was the most substantive, challenging interview that he had. Almost every time they'd be nervous about it. And it made news. Absolutely, it made news.
Absolutely, but he's also leading in with a monologue with a lot of jokes in it. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, it would be like if Jay Leno did a routine and then he interviewed the president or something like that. That doesn't make it news. That doesn't. That's not news. So what are they doing? It's hard enough to find objective news without them trying to water themselves down. Sometimes, a lot of times when people don't like the news, it's because they're not really getting news. They're getting commentators and getting a news crawl underneath them. It's real annoying to me. So I don't like the fact that he's going into the newseum at all.
I think it's awesome, and I'm going to go.
I'm just so annoyed with that.
All right, so Whole Foods has a really great product out. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen. This is the headline is Whole Foods disavows product that was just water with sticks of asparagus in it. And we beat up on Whole Foods for good cause repeatedly for some time, some of the snake oil that they come up with. So where's the picture of it? They don't have the picture. Oh, no. Oh, it's still loading. It was literally a thing of water with some sticks of asparagus. It was $5.99. And it says asparagus water, distributed by Whole Foods. Ingredients, asparagus, water.
Well, it's not exactly false advertising.
Well, there's that, yeah. I swear to God.
It's a clear bottle, too, so you know what you're getting. Honestly, I don't see what the problem is. Go ahead and sell that.
Well, they said like they pulled it. The corporate did. It was only in one store, they claim. I don't know. I just think there's so much nonsense at Whole Foods. Some of the stuff that, you take this powder and it'll have this health benefit, antioxidant effect and all this shit. I went to a store today and there was a pizza it was a gluten-free pizza. And there's a very small percentage of people, I think, is it celiac disease or whatever, what is it called? But that's a new thing. Everyone's like, oh, I'm giving up gluten. And it was like $9.99 for this pizza. Frozen. Probably tastes like shit. Probably tastes about like what the 88-cent little store brand pizza would taste like, if not worse. But anyway, so the fifth caller gets a bottle of asparagus water. Kevin, well, it's accurately described. Any thoughts on asparagus water, Alan?
Is it gluten-free?
Yeah, I think so.
Are the asparagus GMO certified?
My pizza's not. It's high gluten. My pizza, I use high gluten flour.
I'm not sure if it's organic or not.
This is all such bullshit.
Yeah. Maybe Keurig could come up with an asparagus puree dispenser in a pod. Any other thoughts you had on any of the other stuff we were talking about before we go to How's Your Week, Kevin?
I'm still looking over the fallout of the analysis that's going on with the security of Android. I don't have any opinions on it yet, but I am watching it a little bit more closely now. I don't have anything to add to that, but that's going to be a really interesting story, and it's also going to validate what Google was doing with Chrome in the first place, which is when Chrome was first introduced and they were continuing to hold on to it, people were wondering why, and now we're seeing why, because they want a backup plan. If things really, really, really fall apart with Android, then they can do something with Chrome, and it won't be starting from ground zero. But it's a messaging problem with Android where people don't really get to associate that with Google. So they're going to hold on to Chrome in terms of having it being a possibility to use in other areas. I mean, that's what they did in order to start off with it. I am rambling a bit. I'm thinking out loud, but I'm thinking back to when Chrome first came around, and Android was around as well, and people were confused about why they would even want something like that around. And if the security violations get bad enough with Android, I could see why they were trying to push to build something else as well. That's all.
You really think that Chrome is the plan B?
I think it's better than Plan Nothing. In terms of mobile, I mean.
No, it isn't. And the reason why is because if they suddenly said tomorrow, hey, we're abandoning Android and we're making Chrome OS for mobile, they would lose every scrap of market share that they have today. The carriers wouldn't trust them, the manufacturers wouldn't trust them, and I suspect a fair number of users wouldn't trust them.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying in terms of losing trust. Yeah, that's true, but I'm saying bad enough in terms of like if something catastrophic happened. That's all.
How much more catastrophic can you get?
It's a catastrophic leak now, but it's not being exploited on a widespread basis. That's all I mean. If people got exploited on a very, very widespread basis, it could get quite a bit worse. Absolutely. I mean, it's like saying there's some vulnerability at a bank, but if people don't take advantage of it, then it's not as bad as if there was a leak and then all of a sudden everyone's bank account was empty. That's all I'm saying.
Greece comes to mind.
Are we going to talk about Greece?
No.
Can I save it for my Android week? I mean, for
go ahead. Did you have a thoughts you wanted to talk about real quick?
No. I was just watching Alan's face as I said that.
Maybe Trump can become prime minister of Greece and have the country declare bankruptcy.
It could be a test run. We could see how he does.
Trump definitely has experience in bankruptcy, so that would be a match made in heaven.
We don't need to go bankrupt. We just print money. Nigeria 2.0.
Should I jump straight into how was my Google Plus?
How was your Google Plus week, Kevin Bryan, in Cincinnati?
My Google Plus week was very interesting, especially because I got to spend it not freaking out. I've been really, really, really busy over the past couple of weeks. I'm in a different city right now. As a matter of fact, it's going to get a little bit busier this weekend because I'm actually heading back to Atlanta this weekend too. So I'm in Cincinnati now. By this time tomorrow, I'm going to be in Atlanta again.
Are you from Atlanta or you were just there for school?
I was living there for a long time, and now I'm working in Cincinnati.
Gotcha.
But that just happened like a couple weeks ago. And
WKRP?
Yeah, the whole nine. I didn't realize this was a tri-state area. I knew it was on the border between Ohio and Kentucky, but it's really close to Indiana as well. But the week's been a little bit calmer. Been really, really crazy over the past couple of weeks. It's been nice, though. I've been learning more about the city and the attractions, and work is interesting as well. So It's been a good time. It's been raining a lot, so it's raining a little bit less now, so that's good too. So now I can explore a little bit more of the city. Glad to be back over here talking to you guys. I've really been thinking about the show, so it's fun to actually talk to you guys again about
Well, now
Google
that we're
stuff.
allowing you back on,
Yes, that is true.
you should not be a stranger. We do adore having you on. Alan lets me talk about Trump when you're on the show.
Yeah, but it's been great. That's it. It's been great.
Dr. Furstenberg, an honorary doctorate from Nate Swanner. How's your Google Plus week, sir?
Wasn't bad. I'm still watching people try to jump through hoops to explain why Google Plus is the greatest thing since sliced bread and has the greatest future of all.
We're going to be the last 3 left.
No. There are people who will be around long after we leave.
At some point, does it become embarrassing? No, I'm just kidding. I like it. I love the thing.
I love it. I just wish Google believed more in it, but that's something for.
That's
I
not
should've
the
got-
issue. They were all in. They pissed off
they-
all of their YouTube users.
No, they
were.
weren't all in.
You don't think they were all in?
They were so fucking not all in it.
Oh, here we go.
Oh shit.
No, Alan's definitely right. So let me add a little bit more to my Google Plus week. They were all in for about 5 minutes at the very beginning. They were definitely all in. They tied bonuses to.
I think those 5 minutes were a very literal 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm talking almost literally 5 minutes. I'm agreeing with you.
If one thing could have been done differently, what would it have been? Spend more time before they went public? Get somebody who knew what the fuck they were doing in charge?
Get somebody who knew what the fuck they were doing.
For me, okay, it stems from that, but mostly understand that social networks cannot be centrally managed the way they were trying to centrally manage it, and they just needed to let more people access it more openly and let them decide how they wanted to use the social network. And if it wasn't the way they liked, then they should pivot. That goes to opening up the API so that more people can have a different stream experience. That goes to letting people use whatever names they want, so that they can feel more open about using it. It goes to
Kevin, I think what it boils down to is they didn't understand what social meant. They thought that a social network meant it looks like Facebook.
I got to do some comments in a sec, guys. By the way, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. They've never understood social, and that's all the more reason to just leave it more open and just let people do what they want on there. And if it doesn't fit their definition of a social network, then just pivot to what people like to talk about or do.
Well, but here's the thing.
Within limits.
In theory, that's what they're doing now, but they're still wrong.
Because the same people, basically Google, who's deciding what was wrong before, is trying to figure out what's right now. And it's not in their DNA to figure out what's going on with social. They don't get it, period. And so it's hard for them to fix it. I mean, they didn't understand with Buzz. They didn't understand with this. Orkut was bizarre. I mean, it worked and all, but it was still kind of bizarre. But they don't understand it. They don't understand it, and they just need to let other people in. I think one of the things that would help at this point, now they've lost their momentum, is if they open up the API at least. I mean, it's too late, but it's not too late. If you know what I'm saying?
It's
yeah, I mean, it's not going to make them huge, but it could help them not lose more people.
But that's the thing I find absurd about where they've pivoted to. Everyone who seems to be supporting this pivot is saying, hey, now that we're going to be focusing on interest-based focus, everyone will be flocking to Google Plus now.
Yeah, that makes no sense. It's
And-
being marginalized. It's being stuck in its own little corner and making it face the wall and write, I don't know what to do with social 100 times on the board until
Right.
they figure out what to do.
I mean, even if it was the best platform for doing that, and it is so far from the best platform for doing that,
Okay,
it still doesn't actually give people a compelling reason to come here.
That is so true. I don't know.
That's what it boiled down to. And I said this, Dan, you will remember that I said this 4 years ago. Google Plus needed a compelling reason for people to use it, and it never once provided that.
it has a niche reason for a niche. It's fine, but for mass broad
No,
appeal
not
like
even for-
MySpace did, like
you-
Facebook,
what-
no.
For what niche?
Tech men,
No. That's what
And
you have Reddit for.
photographers.
Try again.
male geeks,
Photographer,
and
that's what you have
photographers.
Facebook for. Try again.
I don't know.
There's,
I like it.
And that's the problem.
Yeah,
Is
that
that-
is the problem.
Is that it ended up being a community for tech people and photographers.
Is it that it's
But
too
it's not
complicated to
the best
use
community for
correctly?
that.
To use correctly,
What
it's
was
too. It's to use correctly. It's just too complicated to figure it out.
It was definitely too feature rich at the beginning. There was just a little bit too much going on, but
Feature rich is another way of saying non-intuitive. Facebook is even more feature rich, but it's more intuitive. My grandma can figure out were she alive, she could figure out Facebook without too much help. The worst she would do was invite everyone to play a game or something, But Google Plus, my mom was like, I don't know what the hell this is about. I don't see anything about quilting on here. I'm out,
yeah, I mean, it would have been really nice if they had just shipped with, one or two features, just shipped with the stream, and then offered other products that built off of that stream.
In some way, Kevin, in some ways I agree with you, but in a lot of ways I disagree. And the reason why is because when it actually shipped, it shipped missing a lot of things.
Like
It
users.
shipped missing search. It shipped missing what we now call pages. These were not trivial things. And if they had been there on day one, or equivalents of them had been there on day one, it might have gotten some better traction.
Google Plus shipping without search
Was
one of-
fucking stupid.
That was one of the most amazingly bizarre situations I've ever seen in the tech world, maybe ever.
Right. And yet they did it again when they launched collections.
I can't defend Google Plus when it comes to things like that.
And yet they launched one of the most bizarre features with Google Plus. And I've got a blog post coming out about this on Monday probably. They launched it with Sparks, which was their attempt 4 years ago to create an interest-based something.
That was a noble effort
No, it
that
wasn't.
really no, it was a noble effort that shouldn't have been in the main product. It should have been someplace else and then just linked in
Yeah.
later.
Oh, wait. I've got this. What was it called?
Oh, no.
Google search. Who the fuck puts this crippled version of Google search into your what you want to be your flagship product?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any problem with Sparks when it
I
first
did.
came out, but
Sparks was a fucking disaster.
I'm just saying it shouldn't have been featured the way
It
it
shouldn't have
was.
existed.
Oh, come on. There's been all sorts of bizarre things that Google have put out.
Why'd they get rid of the ripples thing? I liked that. You could easily, like, if you had
I don't know why they could. Here's the simple reason why they got rid of ripples. It didn't work with collections. And rather than fix it, they just got rid of it.
that sucks. It was a easy way to see whatever, like if you had a post and 40 people shared it, I can go and look and see what each person said that was funny, or trolling me. Oh, let me do some. Did you actually say how your week was, Alan?
Yes, I did, and I need to go shortly.
Okay, so let me real quick do some comments. And Alan, will you look at the Google Plus comments while I look? I'm going to get the YouTube comments here while you do the Google Plus ones. Kevin started it off. I'm glad Dan isn't getting trolled tonight. Alan, I don't have the energy even for an easy target. Jeff Stoner, Facebook videos autoplayed on mobile when it was first launched. I don't know if they changed it since I removed Bookface from my phone a while ago, he adds. Joshua Hughes, they killed the golden goose while jumping over a shark on a motorcycle. The media loves Trump because the spectacle makes people want to watch the news, but so does the spectacle of Kim Kardashian or O.J. Simpson, etc. I wouldn't vote for either of them. Trump was definitely a dominating force during the debate, but it was a gauche, insulting presence. There's no end to the damage he would do to this country on the world stage. Did you see the way he told off Rand Paul? Now imagine Rand Paul as a foreign dignitary. That's a stretch. Donald Trump is a divisive figure for sure. People who didn't like him continued to not like him. People who liked him were not at all put off by his amusing and forceful behavior during the debate. Jon Stewart's demographic does not pay for cable. They come out of college. They don't even purchase a television. They only have their tablet. Jon Stewart isn't leaving Comedy Central. He's leaving Hulu or Talk Soup. I mean, it was more like The Soup. Remember that Jon Stewart was coming off of a failed show on some other channel. Was it MTV? At the end of the day, The Daily Show was a political news show spiced with humor. The news we need is a headline and a couple sentences. The Daily Show gives you the news plus comedy. Fox News gives you the news plus an hour of yelling. CNN gives you the news plus pharmaceutical commercials. Pam Adger suggests, talk about osmosis and cell permeability. Josh Hughes, you can run Chrome on Android, and soon you'll be able to run all your Android apps on Chrome OS. They will merge seamlessly and painlessly. My week was great, I guess. I got
not sure I call it seamlessly and painlessly, but okay.
Yeah, except for the seamlessly and painlessly part. My week was okay. It was good. I got the paper out. Check it out at warrencountyva.com or frederickcounty.com. And I was proud of my artwork. There was the railroad was doing some work, and they blocked in a whole like subdivision for like all day, except for like 2 50-minute breaks. And of course, we got phone calls, from livid people. And so I used a graphic from Under the Dome. It's nice to own a tabloid. And so that'll, like Norfolk Southern will probably have like high-level meetings freaking out, worried about that. It's great. Anyway, it was a good week, and I look forward to this coming week when I don't have to put a paper together. So all that happened. Any comments you want to note on Google Plus, Alan?
Nope.
We appreciate Kevin being here from Atlanta, Georgia, and now from Cincinnati, or in Cincinnati, Ohio. Is Kasich popular there, I guess?
Is what? I don't know what that is. Kasich?
Your governor,
What is it?
John Kasich.
Oh. Oh, no. I'm so new that I don't know who the governor is.
Okay.
But I'm sure he's great.
He's just been indicted, Kevin. What the hell? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Anyway, he was in the debate last night. So anyway, we appreciate y'all watching very much. Appreciate the comments. We do the show every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. That's 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Until next Friday, have an epic, awesome Google Plus week. Thanks.